Welcome to a very special live episode of Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Friday, August 15th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Texas game in 15 days, the game against Michigan in 106 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at gratefulgriddleoh.com. Your next event, Tony Gerdeman, after we finish this, is the announcement of the Michigan penalties. That's coming out Friday, lunchtime-ish. Go ahead and pencil us into your calendar. We'll try and have something live, as we have tended to do throughout this whole process. So go ahead and make your plans for that. Sounds like that's going to be lunchtime-ish on Friday. I'm not going to make you, make an exact prediction, but
well, it depends on what time you eat lunch.
That's an excellent point. All right, so that's enough about that. That's later's issue.
I may have to practice going live tonight, so that if I have to handle everything tomorrow, I can do it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll find it. We'll find a way to get together to have one more conversation about that, or at least one more conversation about that. All right, enough with the Michigan talk. Let's talk Ohio State defensive linemen. Got a chance to talk to Larry Johnson and a good cross section of the defensive line. I think the big headline piece of the day is an update on the status of Edric Houston, who provided an update on his status, and when you asked him for some clarity on that status, he simply repeated the same phrase he used the first time.
Yeah, he said he'd be ready for Texas, and so then I said, "Does that mean you're not ready now?" And he said, "I'll be ready. I'll be ready." So he was not all that forthcoming on. There's a bat just flew by us.
No, it's a bird. I thought it was a bat. It is a bird.
So he's not been forthcoming on exactly how he's doing right now. Also, somebody asked, "Well, what exactly happened? What exactly did you do to your knees?" Like, I'm not telling you that. So he's very keeping everything on the down low, but there seems to be no concern that he won't be just fine and ready to go for Texas when they need him.
And that's sort of been in line with what we've seen and what we've heard, because he went from down on the field on day one to walking around on day two to jogging on day three. So, and was out there and was making tangible progress day to day. So it was not a, this is not a big surprise. This is sort of in line with what they had sort of put out, what we had seen. So, good news. Definitely a sigh of relief, though, for Ohio State, because Texas lost one of their tackles for the season, like out for the year. So, you can have those camp injuries that are potential real season changers. Ohio State seems to have dodged a bullet there with Edric Houston. Anything else with him before we move on to...
No, because again,
most of the questions were about that in some form or fashion. Yeah. So on with him, Kaden McDonald came out. He was wearing a T-shirt that just said disruptive. And he was asked, "What does that mean to you?" And he said, "Stop the run." And he is someone who you have seen be disruptive already. He's also someone you can just tell. Sometimes these guys are just so excited for what's about to come. And he's someone who has been somewhat patient. He's played a role, but he's been kind of patient behind some very talented and veteran players. You can tell he's someone who is very excited to have an opportunity now.
Yeah, and the way everybody else talks about him, they're just as excited as he is. But now there's 40 snaps more available per game, and he was talking about being a four-down player, and it's like, well, that would have to be a short third and a short fourth before you get all four down. Don't be greedy. But the fact that he's preparing to be a four-down player, that I can just stay out there. I don't need to be substituted in terms of having the wind, having the gas to do it. And he credited Diet, Kayla Olson, the nutritionist here at Ohio State, everybody that goes through any kind of physical change, gives her the credit that she deserves, and of course Coach Mick. But yeah, he is preparing to play, and not just I'm going to be on the field. Like, he is preparing to stay on the field. That was one of the things that Tyleik Williams, it took a while for him to be able to do. And then once you finally get there, then you can be relied upon through the entire game at any point. And that's clearly what he's trying to be this year.
Yeah, and for him, that process looked like slimming down a little bit. Said he played at 330 last year, more like 322 now. Said that's just quicker, able to stay out on the field a little bit longer. Said they call him Slim Mac now, so that is his new nickname. He was very excited, talked about the challenge of going up against Carson Hinsman in practice. You know, he named a couple different offensive linemen, but it's always telling to me who is the first name that comes out of someone's mouth, and it was Carson Hinsman. Sounds like they've had some real battles. He said, you know, they grow those offensive linemen up in Wisconsin. That's kind of what they do. So that's you have someone from his native habitat of Wisconsin down playing offensive line for Ohio State now. So not a big surprise. He was also asked about the heat, and he's like, you know, I'm from Georgia. Like this is nothing. This is like mid-fall, I think, based on what the grading on the curve of being from Georgia. C.J. Hicks was also out here. He was someone who has kind of gone the other way in terms of his weight, went from 235 to, like he said, 242, 245, which that was just sort of a necessary part of the process. If you're going from linebacker to defensive end, you got to put on some extra weight because he said all of a sudden you're hitting someone who's 300 pounds every single play. So he just was constantly asking questions about what he had to eat, what he had to work on. He said his main focus still keeping that speed up. Yeah, you're putting on weight, but you got to be able to keep the speed up, his get off as well. He said just off the ball, going from off the ball to on the ball now, it simplifies things because you're just looking at the stuff that's in front of you. And he was asked, you know, who is the best at, you know, looking at the stuff in front of you? And you're thinking he's going to say one of the defensive linemen. Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs has everything in front of him, and he's still the best at looking at him. He said he'll call out the whole play before the snap. Said it drives the offense nuts, and they'll try and like flip what they're doing because it's like, you know, Downs has successfully diagnosed exactly what they're running, and so they're like, oh, fine, we'll show you. We're going to run something different, completely different.
Well, and Brandon Innes said the same thing a week or two ago about Caleb Downs, and when it's just like it's so defeating because you get up there and you're ready to run the play, and then Caleb Downs tells you what's happening. You're like, this play is going nowhere.
Well, great.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Well, yeah, and except there's probably some curse words added into it as well. But yeah, we could go. There's another show to do about Caleb Downs. We'll talk to the secondary next week.
Yes. Yeah.
But overall with CJ, I think we all want to see it because this is his last go round, and a major change has been made to his entire lifestyle now in terms of what he is. So, yeah, you want to see that do well. You want to see him do well in that last year because, again, they need it. And, yeah, sure, they're deep, but the variety of defensive ends that they have here can be special.
Yeah, for sure. And did you get a chance to talk to Bo Atkinson or Caden Curry? They were over, I know, at Kevin's table.
No, I was over.
Okay, yeah.
Mainly stayed with the defensive tackles on table 3.
Okay. Well, so let's talk about some of those defensive tackles because I talked about Eddrick Houston and Kaden McDonald, and those are the two guys who are kind of the free spaces on the bingo card in terms of the interior of the defensive line. Those are the two guys who are like exclamation points. Everyone else, to some degree, feels like they're a little bit of a question mark on the interior of that defensive line. Who did you talk to, and what's the sort of sense from them?
Well, the sense is that I talked with Will Smith, talked with Jason Moore, talked with Tywan Malone. All three of those guys need to be in that mix playing. And Will Smith first, he's playing nose tackle now, and he was a defensive end in high school. So this is a process. This is not a quick process, but he talked about how he knows he can play here now, and I think everybody goes through that where you're not sure until finally things start happening. I just wrote about Philip Daniels, and he told us earlier in the week, I knew I could play here when Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau were telling me in bowl camp, like in bowl practices, like, hey, you're doing well, you're going to be okay. But then he still takes time. And took time in spring. So his confidence is growing, and he knows his time is now, and they need him, and so that's been his focus.
Yeah, when you hear about guys talking about knowing they can play here, I always go back to Xavier Johnson and his story of like walking off the field and feeling like, I don't know if I'm in the right spot. And then Urban Meyer saying, I don't remember what number he was wearing. He wasn't 10 at that point, but, hey, 48, you're all right, basically. And it was kind of like, Mean Joe Green throwing him his jersey or something like that. Like, oh, hey, all right, I guess I'll be okay. Looks like we have a super chat.
Jordan Kapler, that's all well and good to hear about Edric Houston, but what we all want to know is if Tom and Tony will be ready for week 1.
All right, so Jordan wants to know, Edric Houston, yes, he's ready for week 1. Tony and I, are we ready for week 1? I can tell you we're already having the conversations about how early we need to get here and what we need to do and planning the whole day of content. Yes, rest assured. barring injury or illness.
Suspension.
Yeah, always a possibility. Barring injury, illness, or suspension, we definitely will be ready for week 1. You can be ready for week 1 as well by becoming a member at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team, get our whole team covering recruiting and X's and O's and all that fun stuff. Should be a very fun few weeks leading up to that Texas game, and then that Texas game itself. I was listening to one of the national college football podcasts. I'll just shout out the college football nerds. I was listening to them on the way in today. They do it at a YouTube show, but it's also they do it as a podcast, also on our board.
Yep.
So you want access to some bright national minds as well. They're there as well. But I was listening to them on the way in. I was like, all right, I'm kind of looking forward to this. Like we've been counting down to this game since January, like literally counting down to this game on this show every day. But yeah, it's 15 days away. It's like, oh boy, that's pretty close.
And we were talking about how early we want to get here. You're suggesting Saturday morning. I was saying like Friday afternoon. You're like, well, that's a little early. I'm like, we can tent it.
There's gonna be plenty to talk about. There's gonna be plenty to do. So yeah, we will have. Don't worry, we will have a full week, or I guess 2 weeks really, of coverage leading up to that game for you at BuckeyeHuddle.com. So, all right, were you over there for any of the Larry Johnson interview?
A little bit of the Larry Johnson. One of the interesting things, I think maybe the most interesting thing I heard from Larry Johnson, because I wasn't over there long, but he did talk about 6 guys. He said, and he didn't name them, but then he also mentioned Jarquez Carter in that 6.
6 guys for the interior or
for defensive tackle, like in
defensive
in
tackle.
That mix.
Okay.
So, and I have you got Edric Houston, Kaden McDonald, Tywone Malone, Will Smith, Jason Moore, Jarquez Carter.
Okay.
And that's my assumption.
Yeah.
So now he said he's got an opportunity, but when he talked about the 6, like we've got a 6, and then like the second name he mentioned was Jarquez Carter. It's like, well, okay, he's doing well right now, so that's something. And as we always talk about, listen for the names that pop up that aren't being asked about, and that was one of them.
Right. Yeah. And to sort of explain that, if you say how is Jarquez Carter doing, getting an answer about Jarquez Carter is not necessarily instructive. If you ask about who's standing out, and that's a name you hear relatively early, okay, then that tells me something. And he's someone who, anytime you have a true freshman, especially interior of the defensive line, where you've got to hold up. I'm always a little dubious about, is this guy ready to play even 20 snaps at the beginning of the season? That's a true freshman in there. If you're getting 5 to 10 snaps out of him against Texas, that'd be huge. That would be enormous. Because if they're willing to put him out there when they have other options out there, even if it's just for a little bit, that would be pretty telling to me that, hey, this is not going to be 5 to 10 snaps for long.
Yeah, well, and then talking with Tywone Malone and Jason Moore, clearly, like, they know their time is now as well. So, like, don't expect them to just hand over those snaps, because they've seen Tyleik Williams is now gone.
Yeah.
And is not coming back. And so there are 40 or 50 snaps that they know Edric Houston is going to get some, but there's a lot of snaps up for grabs.
Yeah.
Super chat, Mike Ferguson. The real question is, when will the manifesto be released? Oops, my mistake. That's tomorrow's show.
Yeah. Mike Ferguson wants to know when the manifesto will be released. Is that your manifesto?
No, well,
on the disappearance of the Mexican pizza from Taco Bell? Is that what your 500-page manifesto is about?
It was about the packaging. It was just a lot to stack and keep in-house. So that's why.
Yeah.
But the manifesto, like, you're going to have to be more specific. I'm sure there's more than one person over there that has a manifesto.
Definitely more than one University of Michigan affiliated person has written a rather well-known manifesto over the years. So you have to be more specific. Do we have other questions we need to get to?
People are asking for a final call on the Texas game.
Oh, a final call on the Texas
Come
game?
on, people.
We're 15 days away. Goodness, I haven't
even got to rewatch the spring game.
When you said the final call on, that was not where I thought that sentence was going. I talked to Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews on the morning show that ran last night, and just talking to him, I think his thoughts on the game, he didn't give a score prediction, but his thoughts on the game and thoughts on just Texas on the whole are pretty similar to what I was looking at, which is everyone's talking about Arch, and yeah, that's great, but they have lost a bunch of talent in the wide receiver room. They have lost a bunch of talent. I think they lost every player on the defensive line who had more than 5 tackles, or interior of the defensive line, like not edge players like Colin Simmons, but like defensive linemen. everyone who had 5 or more tackles for their team last year is gone. So they've brought in a bunch of other guys. They have a ton of transfers. But how confident are you that you know exactly what you're getting out of the Texas defensive line? And at the same time, they've lost some talent on the offensive line as well. I mean, Kelvin Banks, the left tackle, he went, top 10 in the draft. They lost a bunch of other guys who didn't get drafted nearly as high, but you're replacing basically your entire trenches. I look at that and I think, Texas may have a little bit of an advantage at quarterback just because Arch Manning played more, and Arch Manning has been QB1 for them the whole spring and fall, so you've got just a lot more reps. But when you look in the trenches, I think that's, I've certainly not put together a score prediction yet, but I look at Texas as replacing a bunch of guys in the trenches on both sides of the ball, and I think, well, this doesn't scream extremely high-scoring game to me, so close and low-ish scoring would be my broad idea on that right now.
Well, and while you were talking with Brett Ciancia, I was talking with Paul Feinbaum and Peter Burns, and they both say it's not going to be good for Ohio State. Just you know, it's not going to go well for the Buckeyes.
Well, there you go. If Peter Burns says so, well then. Super chat.
Mike Ferguson, another super chat. I've read Tony's manifesto. It said send help and was written in ketchup on a cocktail napkin.
It's a big napkin. It's like a lot of words there for just a little napkin.
All ketchup and no mustard makes Tony a dull boy.
That's right. Something.
Something. Don't mind if I do. Anything else that because you and I were at different tables for virtually the whole interview session today.
Well, some more stuff on Will Smith. Just talked about how his strength is his ability to just get off the ball right now vertically. He prefers that more than the horizontal stuff that maybe you have to do more away from the ball. Now that he's closer to the ball, he can just go get it. So that's something that he believes he's inherited from his father. So that's, the great Will Smith, All-American defensive end, said, I'm here to work this year. And again, it just takes guys time. Same with Jason Moore, talking with him. Same with Tywan Malone. Like, you get here, it doesn't matter if you're coming here from Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It's still a step up. With Phillip Daniels, he said 2 days ago, this is a more pro environment. So, you get here, and it doesn't matter if you've come from a Big Ten school, an SEC school, there's still going to be a change, and generally a step up as well.
Yeah, about the only people that you could think of that have not had that kind of a step up, Caleb Downs coming from Nick Saban, Alabama to here. I think that's probably a lateral move.
Seth McLaughlin
coming from Nick Saban, Alabama to here. Other than that, I mean, you're looking at Georgia. No, they haven't got any transfers from Georgia that I could think of. Hero Canoe going from Ohio State to Texas is probably sort of the same basic thing. But, man, the level in here is just the level of not only the level of competition, but also just the level of the talent in here. And the level of the intensity and the pressure in here is not similar to most other places that you can really think of.
Yep.
So, anything else that we can think of before we need to wrap things up?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So we will wrap that up for today. We'll have much more coverage for you coming up on Friday. Again, the Michigan penalties expected to come down, be officially announced around lunchtime, early afternoon. Just sort of stand by. We will probably put out a live stream tentative. Emergency podcast level is red right now for sure. Haven't thought about that one in a while. I'll have to get that meme dug back out. But yeah, we'll have a live show coming up on Friday afternoon at some point whenever this comes out. Figure noon, 1, give or take, something like that. But so stand by. Great way to make sure you are ready for it whenever it comes down is to go to youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Tony Gerdeman, at Tom Orr, at Kevin_Noon, and at Buckeye Huddle as well. Those are all the places you can follow us. So we'll have plenty of that for you. And plenty more coming up because, boy, this is the last Saturday without college football until the end of the season, basically. So, well, until January. I'm sure there's some stupid NFL Saturdays or Saturdays or whatever it is. But
until the games move to Mondays, Tuesdays, and random Thursdays.
Until at least Christmas, I would say, the last Saturday without college football. So should be a fun time to become a member of BuckeyeHuddle.com. You can get access for less than $5 for your first month. Just go to BuckeyeHuddle.com and sign up today. Get access to our whole team of insiders, our fun and active board, the Huddle Board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. That is all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.